Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have a lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first let's talk about the conflict on the territory Ukraine, where during the previous 48 hours the Russians carried out one of the biggest attacks. This attack took place yesterday between the 19th and the 20th of August of 2026. According to different sources, the Russians used hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles. We already discussed this massive attack yesterday, but during the previous 12 hours, during the previous night, we received additional updates on this matter. And this morning, this picture was published. This is a fresh satellite picture with fresh fire anomalies through the Kyiv region. As you can see, the biggest number of fire anomalies was recorded since the beginning of the special military operation. Basically, dozens of fire anomalies through the entire Kyiv region, starting from the western parts of the Kyiv agglomeration, ending through the eastern parts of the Kyiv agglomeration. According to this article, according to different sources, approximately 70 missiles of various types are believed to have been used in a missile strike on Kyiv, and the Russians were attacking warehouses, ammo depots, military facilities, objects of energy infrastructure. So lots of objects were damaged, and for example, the mayor of the city of Kyiv stated that today in the afternoon, he was making this post yesterday, so today in the afternoon, a critical infrastructure facility in the capital was deliberately attacked for the first time in several months. Residents of the Desnyansky district and part of the Dniprovsky district of Kyiv may experience disruptions in hot water supply. So yesterday, according to pro-Ukrainian sources, according to mayor of Kyiv, the Russians, for the first time for a very long period of time, have attacked the Kyiv power plant number 4. So the Russians were attacking energy objects of energy infrastructure during the winter period of time, but yesterday we received the report that the Russians attacked the territory, and this video was published yesterday in the evening, and here we can see the consequences of attack. A black smoke over the city of Kyiv. Once again, it seems that the Russians attacked the Kyiv power station number 4. But at the same time, right after the Russians finished attack on the city of Kyiv, the Ukrainian authorities made a very important statement. Kyiv is ready to negotiate with Russia, stated Sergei Kyslitsa, the first deputy head of the Office of the President of Ukraine. According to him, negotiations involving the United States are currently on hold, and Kyiv is awaiting a visit from the American representatives to resume them. So as you can see, Kyiv is ready for the negotiation process, but this is not just about missile attacks, this is also about money. Zelensky yesterday emphasized that the war has become more expensive. We need to find resources. This is the biggest challenge, he complained. So not just missile strikes, but money and so on. And not just money, not just missile strikes. We see that the Russians continue developing their missiles, their technologies, and furthermore, the Russians are not just developing their technologies, the Russians are importing technologies from other countries. And for example, yesterday we received the report that Ukrainian intelligence confirms Russia has received North Korea's heavier ballistic missiles for the first time, Kyiv-30. As of July, Russia held approximately 50 North Korean missiles of 3 types, Kn-23, Kn-24, and now the Kyiv-30. A North Korean missile crew of roughly 90 personnel has deployed to Russia's Voronezh Oblast to operate up to 6 launchers. The sources reported North Korea, more precisely, claims that Kyiv-30 carries a 2,500 kilos warhead, though analysts consider this likely exaggerated. Anyway, these missiles are very powerful, and obviously if the Russians use these missiles to attack objects of energy infrastructure, this can lead to unpredictable consequences, and probably this can lead to a total destruction of these facilities. And of course, the Russians gave an answer to a request of negotiations and so on. The Russians Russians stated that there are currently no preconditions for a peaceful resolution to the conflict in Ukraine, according to the Kremlin. The Russian presidential press secretary stated that Moscow appreciates the efforts of countries that are sincerely trying to facilitate the settlement, but such states are still few in number. There are no exact dates yet for a possible visit by Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner to Russia. Today, Vladimir Putin will hold a meeting on the development of nuclear energy. The Russian president also plans to participate in the summit in Kyrgyzstan. So, as we can see, the Russians for now rejected any idea of negotiations with the Ukrainian side, and not just because the Russians hold the initiative in their hands. The Russians want most likely, first of all, to have presidential elections on the territory of Ukraine, and according to information we have, Zelensky rejected this idea. Zelensky's office rejects Fedorov's call for Ukraine to hold elections. It is currently not possible to hold presidential elections in Ukraine due to security concerns. If you remember, several days ago, the former Minister of Defense of Ukraine, Fedorov, issued the ultimatum, but we see that Zelensky rejected this ultimatum and rejected proposal of Fedorov. But at the same time, despite the fact that the President of Ukraine rejects any idea about presidential elections, we start receiving very interesting articles published, first of all, in Western media, and these articles call Zelensky to resign. The German publication writes that Zelensky's time in power is up and that voluntary resignation would be the most sensible political decision for him. But most likely this is the thing that Zelensky would reject as well. And this means that the conflict on the territory of Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine will continue. At the same time, yesterday we expected that the Ukrainians would retaliate and they would use hundreds of drones to attack deep inside the territory of Russia. And telling the truth, the Ukrainians made this attempt. The sources reported that the Ukrainians launched approximately 330 drones deep inside of the territory of Russia. The Ukrainians were using jet drones and regular drones to attack facilities on the territory of the Russian Federation. And this morning we were expected either videos from pro-Ukrainian sources about consequences of attack, or a report from the Russian side about successful work of their air defense forces, and we received the second option. The Russians stated that during the night the Russians managed to intercept and to destroy 325 drones of the armed forces of Ukraine, and according to updates we've received since the beginning of the 21st of August of 2026, we can make a conclusion that this is already the fourth attack in a row that was repelled by the Russians without significant consequences. Yes, we received reports from the area of the settlement by the name of Ufa, from the area of the settlement by the name of Perm. The sources reported that it seems the Ukrainians made an attempt to attack the Perm oil refinery, and the local sources published several videos on this matter where we can see a black smoke over the Perm oil refinery, but it seems that despite the fact that several pictures were published from this area, it seems that the Russians indeed managed to repel this attack. Maybe the Ukrainians managed to deal some damage, or their bees fell on the territory of oil refinery, and that's it. The Ukrainians haven't managed to deal a critical damage to this facility, which means that the Russians since the beginning of July have improved their air defense forces significantly, and now the Ukrainians are not able to penetrate these air defense systems and to deal a critical damage to Russia. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground. During the previous 12 hours we haven't received many updates, but we have some. First of all, the Russians continue their offensive operation through the city of Orikhiv, and today we received this video where we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians on the territory of the settlement by the name of Tokmachka. So now we start receiving proofs that indeed the Russians are present on the territory of the settlement and that the Russians continue advancing. Furthermore, the Russians intensify their strikes through the settlement of Yurkovka. This is the city next to the settlement of Orikhiv in the northwestern direction, and obviously when the battle for Orikhiv ends, the Russians will start the battle for the settlement of Yurkovka. We have small changes through the Novopavlivka direction. This is the village that The battle for this village started probably 2 years ago, and during this period of time the Russians partially controlled the settlement 2 or 3 times, but now we received videos and proofs from the Russian side that the Ukrainians during the latest battle for the settlement managed to recapture the settlement almost completely. In this video we can see how Ukrainian soldiers were moving through the village and how the Russian FPV drones were attacking them. Based on this video we have adjusted the map. Basically we colored the gray zone back in the complete Ukraine's control. Now let's talk about the Druzhkivka direction. During the previous 12 hours, more precisely during the previous 36 hours, significant changes were recorded through this area. For example, this is the end of the 19th of August, this is the end of the 20th of August of 2026. If you remember, Russians stated they captured the settlement of Mykilske, and by the morning of the 21st of July of 2026, we see that the Russians once again improved their position, and the Russians began their major offensive operation between 2 pincers between the settlement of Konstantinovka and the village of Raiska. Now the Russians are tasked to take this pocket under complete control and to completely maintain the line between the rivers of Kazyonny and Kryvoi Torets. As for the Kramatorsk and Slavyansk, the Russians during the previous 24 hours continued bombing and attacking the territory of the settlement using aviation. In this video we can see the Russians were bombing the settlement of Kramatorsk with aviation, with FAP. Lots of explosions were recorded. As you can see, the Russians were bombing Ukraine's facilities and temporary deployment points. So this facility, this is a mall that was basically wiped out by Russians, and furthermore the Russians continued attacking the city of Slavyansk. As for the city of Slavyansk, the industrial zone was attacked. Most likely the Ukrainians were using both facilities for military purposes. As for the northern directions, during the previous 24 hours, another gas station destroyed was recorded. This is the gas station through the most southeast and through the eastern parts of the settlement of Kharkiv. As for the changes on the ground, during the previous 12 hours, no changes were recorded. The Russians continue using aviation, continue using heavy bombs to attack positions of the armored forces through this territory, trying to soften defenses. In coming days, we expect additional changes on the ground, especially through the northern direction, because probably since the beginning of this week, the pro-Russian sources as well as the group of forces north haven't published anything, which means that the Russians improve their positions, but they're just waiting for their time to make all these posts and all these articles. And that's it for the short video. The Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes to my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.